Today, we interview Atif Syed on the Manufacturing Leaders podcast. Atif is the founder and CEO of Wootzano, a business who makes dexterous robots. This episode literally blew my mind and changed my opinion completely about robots and how they will affect the world and the workplace. We talk about his journey building a business and how important it is to have a vision that the team is on board with. If you're interested in robotics and automation, or just want to find out a little bit more like I did, then this is the episode for you. It really did change the way I see robots come into our lives in a massive way. Atif is a true inspiration. He has built a business under 5 years that is flying year on year and was even awarded a £300 million contract. This was a brilliant episode. You're going to love it. Excellent. So a warm welcome to Atif onto the podcast. Really looking forward to this one. So how are we? All good?
I'm great. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thanks for having me.
And I'm really looking forward to getting into the business. I think it's fascinating and can't wait to ask some questions around that. But before we do so, I always ask the first question, as is this, which is, what does it mean to you to be a leader, would you say?
Well, being a leader, I mean, it's one of those things. I've been doing this company, running the company for the past almost 5 years. And I've run something else in the past as well. I think being a leader is not about giving orders to your team. It's inspiring the team. So one of the things which I say, when you look at our robotic system, my invention was actually the electronic skin, but the actual robotic system was built by our amazing team. And my contribution to that was actually inspiring the team to be able to, fulfill a massive task. Because when I asked the team to say, you know what, in 2020, middle of COVID, they said, we have to build a robot because there's no such robotic system out there. And they all were like, are you kidding me? It's a massive task. No one else. I mean, these massive companies were trying to do this and you're asking us to do this. And then I realized, you know what, there's no point telling giving the full burden onto every member of the team. And I said, look, you know what, you work on this part. Don't forget about the rest of it, right? Forget about what the end result is. I'll take care of it, right? Success or failure, I'm the one on the line, right? I'll do that. You focus on this, right? Trying to get that, sometimes people don't believe in themselves, right? And it's getting that motivation, getting that self-belief out. And in 4 months, they were able to do something which they themselves didn't believe in the start. And they're like, oh, we did it. It's like we got the first prototype and it's sort of rest is history. But I think that element is very crucially important. You take leadership is you're pretty much at the heart of it. Yes, you take the bullet when it comes to and for your team, and at the same time you're inspiring the team when they need them most. When people fail and when it got difficult times, you see sometimes people and everyone start blaming rest of the team, and it's always because of you. You didn't do your job properly. You didn't do this, and the whole point is you have to be strong enough. And if and it's a very mentally draining part as well. At times, it's also very, let's call it, your lonely place to be, because you do inspire, you do try to get everything else for everyone else, but you don't have much of a support because you can't let your guard down to sort of show that you're scared as well. You're a human being like everyone else. For me, obviously, my wife has been the massive support. That someone I can put my head on her shoulder. If she wasn't there, I think it would have been even 10 times more difficult to what I've done and what I've been doing. So yeah, being a leader is that for me. It's getting and inspiring and taking the bullet when you have to for the team, as opposed to also because when people are doing good, to be honest, that's where they need the least. Yes, you tell you've done a good job, but that's where they need the least support. It's only when something has gone wrong and, like we're failing, it's a series of failures happening in terms of either you're building a product and that doesn't work. That's when the team needs the most support. And that's where your leadership qualities have to shine. Because if you're not there in people's bad times, then you shouldn't really be there when everything is good. And it's like, oh, great. Yeah, come all together. You should do both.
Yeah, 100%. And what I get from that, and I agree completely that, leaders like yourself are ones that are in the trenches with them, and you're the first to go over. Do you know what I mean? You're the first to show them the way. Yeah. And I think particularly as the journey you've been on and something you're trying to get to all together as a team in such a short space of time, and what you've already achieved in such a short space of time is obviously testament to the team. And like you say, the way you've led them, because any good team needs a good leader. It's as simple as that. Otherwise, they're just a group of
Yeah.
individuals. So
You,
completely,
you need a vision. You need a vision. You have to be a bit crazy
yeah,
to an extent.
yeah,
Yeah, because sometimes it's like, Atif, that's crazy. Why did you? How on earth? Yeah, you were thinking that's you have to have that level of almost let's call it not accepting the reality to an extent. But of course, if you do take calculated risk and you know what's happening and what can physically happen, and we're not doing something which is going against the laws of physics. We're trying to do something which
yeah.
is in line with what the known physics is. Then you're gonna be successful. If not, then yeah, well, you go big or go home, do nothing.
Yeah,
There's no
100%.
middle ground.
That's entrepreneurship, isn't it? Now, I want to. I can't wait to talk about the company. Before I do that, quickly, I think it'd be good for me to understand everyone to understand how you got to where you were today. Do you know what I mean? I guess because there's a lot
Yeah.
of you've had a brilliant career. I mean, did you always know you were going to be a leader? When was it when you started going? I want to be a manager. I'm going to own something. Do you know what I mean? How can you think early back where this all started?
Yeah, I mean, my background is in robotics, software engineering and everything else. When I was a kid, I was really fascinated by software engineering because it didn't require any massive tools. You can just have a computer, uh, and I self-taught because back in the days, I mean, I'm 31 now, but even the younger generation now, they've got so much access to data and like information. But even back in my time as well, internet wasn't that accessible. It was expensive to even log on to internet and all that sort of thing. I used to get lots of scolding from my dad. It's like, what's the internet bill this month? What have you been doing? But it was very difficult to find information. So you have to go to libraries and get books and be taught, self-taught myself how to do C++, so that I can do some programming. It was something which really excited me because it can create something very interesting without really needing much of like expensive equipment. But when I was in university, I was very much excited with I mean, robotics was one part, was really, really fascinating. But one of the other things which really got me excited was nanotechnology, because what nanotechnology did was it now allows you to create things at a very nano scale, a very small scale, which have a macro effect, right? So when you look at robotics, when you look at things around you, you've got like big machines, mechanic components and stuff. In nano scale, you're basically going down to very, very small scale. To even see what's happening on a nano scale, you need an electron microscope to see exactly what you've done, what you've created, right? That was really interesting because at the time I was developing a new way of delivering drugs into the body. So cancer research and also cancer itself, different types of cancer, tumors, was one of the things which is very close to me from family. Family members suffering from cancer. I was like, there have to be better way to detect cancer and at the same time treat tumors rather than chemotherapy or radiotherapy because it pretty much destroys the person. So I got interested in sort of saying, okay, well, there have to be where if it can we create a sort of a nanobot at a very small scale, which can deliver a very targeted response to where the tumors are. I'm not going to go into details, but that's where the interest was. So doing my undergraduate, when I did my undergraduate in York, University of York, beautiful city, beautiful university. Yeah. I created a bit of a prototype for my final year project, and that prototype was good. Was got like a first class degree, and the project was really good. It was very good for what resources I had available. £150 is what York gave me to do the initial prototype. But for me, it wasn't the end of it because I wanted to prove the science behind it, right? Now it was so early at that point. The thing was quite early on, which meant I didn't have you can't go and ask for investment for something which is pretty much an idea. You've proven just some part of it, but a lot of it is yet to be proven. The science is yet to be proven. Forget about market. Science is yet to be proven, right? So the only way for me at the time was I have to do a PhD because in that case you get funded, you get funding, you get pretty much access to all the expensive equipment you need to do the work. And if everything fails, you've got a degree and you can call yourself a doctor.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I have to find it. So I went and got like a enhanced studentship, which wasn't attached to any existing project because I wanted to do my own project. So got the funding, went to Edinburgh, in Scotland, University of Edinburgh, a very good university. They've got all the resources needed. In the first night, I basically did my PhD to prove the science and actually commercialize the product as opposed to being an academic, which is what I followed through. Right? I didn't become an academic. In the first 9 months, I realized that the material which I was developing, in terms of for drug delivery, actually have amazing properties for force and pressure sensors. It was like a super sensitive force and pressure sensor, which is fully stretchable, had all its amazing properties, which is like a byproduct. And with my robotics background, I knew instantly where this could be used because for robotics, the sense of touch as human beings is missing, has always been missing. And that's how it got connected. So in 9 months of my PhD, I pivoted from medical devices and everything else into robots. We have to put this into robots. And yeah, I finished a PhD in 2.5 years, which is still one of the fastest PhD I've done in my institute. And then I spun off, sort of started the company. I mean, the thing is, when you do your PhD, Edinburgh had a very good policy, in fact, contract we signed when you become students, that students own all the IP. Because when you work in universities, universities end up owning a lot of the IP. You have to then negotiate. And in Edinburgh, it's very good that students own all the IP.
Okay.
So I was able to sort of negotiate my way to effectively get the full IP to myself and form Wootzano. But the thing is, sort of the process of where we are, what I've done, and where it is, it's different for different people. But for the work which I was doing, it was important to have this level of academic expertise, because for what is being done, you can't just do it. Unfortunately, if it's only software, if you're making the next Facebook, yes, you can do it in a dorm room, and probably in a week, and you got Facebook out, But unfortunately, for something what we do, what we call it the deep tech, that's the buzzword, right? In deep tech, it's very difficult just to do it in the bedroom. You have to show a lot. You have to show the science behind it. If you don't show the science, you become somewhere like the Theranos type scandals. People just claim random stuff without really having anything behind it, no substance behind it. So you need like peer review research. You need to have validation of the research you've done, to then say like it's actually it's useful. And then the biggest task begins, right? Because I felt the big task was actually inventing the product and getting the product in. It's actually commercializing the product. That's a different beast.
Yeah, but it is. Did you so I guess you've got, in terms of business owners, you've got two different types of people. Did you decide to build Wootzano because you knew that would be the way to develop the software, or did you also really want to own a business? Because I guess that's two different types of characters. Sometimes you get people who are just passionate about the design, passionate about the science behind it, but want to work behind the scenes, and you got other people who actually, I want to build a business in this. Was that obvious for you that the latter was you, would you say?
I mean, for me, obviously, I've already had the software and stuff. I mean, it was not really about the research. It was all to do with actually building a business, right? Because as engineers, the biggest validation and the biggest gratification you get is getting your products used by people, and the only way I can see is having a business and enabling that product to be used by hundreds of thousands of millions of people eventually, right? That's the dream of any engineer. But I think I do think that I'm one of the very few. I'm praising myself, which is not great.
That's good. That's good.
But I'm one of the few breeds of engineers who have managed not only to know how to have the engineering talks to speak with the technical team, but also how to talk to the business, sort of how to have business deals and associations and create contracts and essentially sell the product in the commercial world. And I think I've managed to do those two things, which is very exciting, because when you look at obviously research and developing the next big thing in robotics, because what we've done in our company, we've solved one of the biggest issues in dexterous manipulations. We're the only company in the world right now having patents which covering those particular aspects of robotic manipulation. No one else does it. Still no one else does that. So So that's great. That's very exciting. But at the same time, when you look at commercially what we're doing and what effect we're having on the commercial world to our customers, how it's helping, them, some of them even surviving as a business, having robots, is also fascinating, right? So those two elements, when you look at it, it's the best of both worlds, really. So for me, it's really getting the products out and commercializing it and business ownership. I think that's a huge element, because if I wouldn't have owned the business, maybe the motivation wouldn't have been as
Yeah.
much as what I have right now.
Yeah, I love that. And just from context, I'll just read out what you have on LinkedIn, which I just think it blew my mind. And it's so interesting that to describe the business, we make highly dexterous robots which can interact in the world like humans using our electronic skin, machine learning, and proprietary hardware. And for a mere mortal like me, it's mind blowing that this can even exist. Do you know what I mean? I guess it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I know, I know the robotic world, it's all coming, isn't it? I mean, do you see
Yeah.
how challenging is this to get to market, and like you say, to have mass users and it be suddenly the norm? Can you see, do you feel like you're on a wave for that now because there's so much of it?
Yes, exactly. I think we are on a wave, a massive wave for robotics and AI. AI and also robotics have been a bit of a buzzword for quite some time.
Yeah.
Because the problem is a lot of people have muddied the water. They weren't really using AI, but still calling it AI because it makes it look cool. But for us, we use machine learning and machine learning and AI, just because for the type of things like fruits we process. Fruits don't, they're organic material. They're built out of nature, right? And nature is not uniform. It's non-uniform. So you need to have the human intuition. You need to have machine learning models. You need to have convolutional neural network models. You need to essentially combine this models to create human intuition, what you and I would have. So robots not only just feel like humans and perform like humans, but also have a human intuition, which can differentiate between, even if a product looks slightly different, but from based on what they've learned in the past, they can say that, oh, actually, it's still the same product. I'm going to process it as that same product. I'm not going to be confused just because it doesn't look exactly how I looked at it before. So you need to create that level of thing, that level of intuition, which is where we are right now. I mean, when you look at robots, they are self-learning. They learn like humans.
Yeah.
They learn much faster, of course, like a human being. They don't need to wait for 18 years or 15 years and go through a lot of experiences. They can do that in like 15 minutes,
Yeah.
which is a bit of a scary thought if you think about it, like how quickly robots can learn and get to the same thought process as a human being. Compared to a human being, taking years. Like, I've got a 3-year-old daughter, she'll take, I don't know, many more years to develop her skills. And I mean, she's learning very fast, but still,
Yep.
it's just human beings need that lag time, and robots don't need that. But at the same time, it's something which is really being adopted in the industry, right? So in the industry we are in, fruit packing and post harvest industry, that industry has historically been manual, laborious labor. Because robots couldn't do that dexterous jobs, like delicate jobs to pick fruits and process fruits. So our vision for the company is to democratize robots, make robots accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
And we are starting with the fruit harvesting, food packing sort of companies who've been forgotten by the robotic companies. So our robots are not only dexterous and does amazing work like humans, but they actually cost as much as a human being would cost.
Yeah.
So the ROIs for the customers is 1 year or less, which is unheard of in the industry. So all of those factors are there to enable adoption or mass adoption in that field as quickly as we can, because then you've got less of a hassle, right? You've got robots, got issue with labor because labor doesn't exist anymore. You're in recruitment, that the sort of problems we go through in trying to find labor, especially the problem is even more in manual laborious tasks, because most let's face it, right? Our kids will not want to go and do picking and packing fruits. It's just not happening.
Yeah.
It won't happen in the future as well. It doesn't happen now. It won't happen in the future. So what do we do? These guys are feeding the nation, right? We have to arm them to get the produce to us, or else we won't get fresh fruit and fresh. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but this is pretty much where it is, right? These companies cease to exist, or they can't be sustainable, then it's very difficult for you to go into your local Waitrose or Morrison's and find a particular product being available. I mean, now we take it for granted, but that's the level of thing we're trying to solve, and we're solving, right? So we are there in the industry helping them out. Eventually we see, I see our robots being eventually used in people's homes. We've got a project in mind as well to get these robots in people's home. The way I see robots is robots will give you the luxury of time, right? If you want, you can mow your own lawn, but you got robotic lawnmowers. If you want, you can, vacuum your floors or mop your floors. We got robotic vacuum cleaners, right? It's all about what will you do with your time. It's a choice as opposed to a compulsion that you have to do this, right? So if you don't want to cook your food, you can ask a robot to cook your food. All that sort of things are there to give you a choice and give you the time back, which you can then use to spend more time with your family, maybe do more things you like to do, which excites you, take up a new hobby. As opposed to doing things you don't want to do and now you're doing it because there's no alternative. You have to do it.
That's such a refreshing way to think about it, because sometimes all you hear is a scaremongering about robots are coming to take over jobs. But no one to me has ever spoken like you have there in terms of the benefits. Like you say, the time back, because everyone complains about being too busy. We're stretched, but you're right. If we can create robots to give us time back to do what we need to be doing, not what we are currently doing. No one enjoys mowing the lawn. I would much rather go and play with the kids than to mow the lawn, but it's something that needs to be done every week in the summer. So it's a lovely way to think about it. All you hear is a scaremongering, and I completely agree as well on the recruitment side that I don't see robots replacing jobs. I see the jobs market changing to adapt, and we've got to adapt to it. We have to adapt to it. And that means upskilling, that means training, because it's just a new way to skill, isn't it? 100%.
Exactly. I mean, we've been trying to tell the government, right? Look, we are happy to retrain people, with your help. If the government chips in and creates some programs and schemes, they're working on creating something, but it hasn't fully been done yet. But the good thing there is if you try to upskill people, then you're just replacing those jobs with higher paid, more fulfilling, better quality of life, because people have better wages being given for those jobs, and eventually people are happier. I mean, even the people are working on a robot line. So we call a robot line a human line, right? So people are working robots. These robots are collaborative robots. So they work with humans. They're safe to work with humans. So humans work with the human and robots. And the robots are taking the mundane, repetitive, the laborious, the frankly very, very boring jobs. But it's then enabling the people who are working on the line to do more exciting jobs. They actually like to work on the robot line. They actually want to be put on the robot line. The job satisfaction, even for the people who are working right now in the production lines, actually they love to work with the robot and the robotic line than the existing human lines, right? So it's an overall good thing. I mean, scaremongering is actually easy because you just create you just create a bit of jobs are lost. But then the problem is you look much deeper and much further behind. What do you mean by jobs are lost, right? There's a lot more positives which are coming out of it. You're converting the jobs from a low-paying job to a higher-paying job, which is what I think everyone wants. I mean, everyone wants to have that in place anyway. Better-paying jobs and better fulfilling jobs and more secure jobs.
And probably more relevant to the new generation. If you look at our kids now, it's not great, but they've got iPads, technology, for a very young age. So, they're growing up with that. You're right. They're not going to want to work manual labor because resilience is probably lower than it used to be. And people want more than, they want more than they used to. But for a higher skill, more technical, when they're working with automation robots, that's what they're going to want because they've had technology from when they're 3 years old now. I mean, I've got a 3-year-old and he's all over the iPad and we try and restrict his time, but he's growing up with technology. I didn't.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So I completely agree.
Exactly. Exactly. My theory is exactly the same thing. It's speaking to Alexa. She speaks to Alexa and asks to play songs and stuff. Obviously, when I grew up, we didn't have any of those. And actually, that's making our kids a lot more confident. If you look at kids, right? Look at my daughter Zoe. And we look at other kids of her age. They don't speak like they are 3 years old, 5 year old, or 10 year old. They're pretty much like adults. They're speaking to you and having full blown conversations with so much confidence. I don't think I had that. At that time I was like, I wouldn't have had that level of confidence trying to speak because, and I think that's a lot largely to do with the independence they got, right? With obviously all the technology they got, the access to knowledge, the access to information. So they're a lot more confident in what they're saying, what they're doing, because they don't need us to sort of tell them many things, right? They're making up, which is great, which is what we want. We want independent, self-thinking sort of kids, right? to make up their own mind and decide what they want to do and be confident in it, right? That's all we need. We don't want people to just follow a herd mentality, break the norms and do something interesting and you think outside the box. And now the younger generation is like that, right? They're thinking outside. If you look at many things, they're realizing, oh, why should we follow the old norms of how you guys have been doing it? This is wrong. We shouldn't be doing it this way. There are better ways to do this. This is true. You listen to them, actually, it's true.
Apologies for interrupting this podcast for a very quick 30-second pitch of my business. Theo James are a specialist manufacturing and engineering recruitment search firm based in Seaham in the Northeast. If you're looking for any staff or a new opportunity yourself, from a semi-skilled level right the way up to C-suite executive, then please get in touch. We have a specialist consultant in each discipline ready to help. I'm extremely proud of what we've built over the years, and I'd love to extend that service out to you. Thank you. Enjoy the podcast.
They're realizing, oh, why should we follow the old norms of how you guys have been doing it? This is wrong. We shouldn't be doing it this way. There are better ways to do this. This is true. You listen to them, actually, it's true.
I completely agree, and I love that, and I think it will change it will change a lot of mindsets about the robotics side. In terms of building a business, because building a business is hard. However great the prototype, however great the product is, it's still very difficult. It still takes a good leader to do that. Yes. Obviously, I know you had on your LinkedIn as well that you closed a £300 million contract at some stage, which is unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? It's for a company of that size and come in terms of how long you've been going. How did that come about? Can you talk me through?
So we had, it's basically with table grapes. We had a very large packer. It's a Spanish packer, and basically we built a prototype at the time. And the prototype was really, was there to obviously do the post harvest sort of packing, and we had a snipper. We did like a whole series of things, and they said, look, this is one of the big issues, right? We have to make this happen. So we built the first prototype. They got impressed, really impressed, because even till today, there's nothing out there in terms of what we've done. But when you look at the prototype we built, about a year and a half ago, compared to what the robot is doing right now, I'm like, yeah, this is a massive even shift. We actually signed a contract on a much slower version of Alvarai. Yeah. It wasn't even called Alvarai, by the way, at the time. It was just a robotic system. It was a fruit and vegetable, autonomous fruit and vegetable packaging system or something. It's a long name we had,
something, basically, yeah.
We call something small later on. So we did that. We signed the contract. And now from this year onwards, we're starting to deliver against it. So the milestones within the contract is for a period of time, period of 5 years, with the extension period as well in that thing. But what it did to us was it showed us that there's a massive market, right? That the contract said that, look, it's one customer, one commodity, and we're not even done yet. We now have in terms of retailers. Not retailers, our customers providing retailers. It's over 80% of retail supply. It's basically who our customers are. A robot's not yet do all 80%, but that's sort of who our customers have that level of supply into the market. Almost more than 50% of UK and Europe combined for table grapes, about 50 to 60% for wine, tomatoes, and tomatoes. So we've got basically the big sort of players in the field. And what I'm very proud to say is that, when you go into the post-harvest world of packing and, of different fruits and veg, Wootzano is now one of those names which come out. Like if anyone wants to automate their robots or automate their pack houses, their warehouses, Wootzano is the name which come up. And actually, in fact, the funny thing was a few months ago, I had one of the a small packer in the UK, just having a chat, and then didn't know who I was, but basically was telling about Wootzano to me, and it was very nice to hear about this, right? Because he was say, yeah, this is robot which does this. It's really good. You have to hear about these guys, and towards the very end, I said, yeah, I know Wootzano very well.
Nice.
So it's a good thing that word of mouth is right. Word of mouth is there in town, because we haven't done like a massive marketing campaign to go out. In fact, we should do more in promoting ourselves. But in the field and community, in the business target industry where we are right now, it's word of mouth which is going out, and people are going and talking about the system and taking it out and about, which is very good. I'm in California. We're trying to get the same success we have in the UK and Europe. We are replicating that here in Central Valley, which is a beautiful part, always sunny, pretty much part of California. It's all, you leave from San Francisco and go to Central Valley. It's about 24, 25 degrees all the time. So I'm actually going now in the next few hours. And our customers are sort of based between sort of Fresno and Bakersfield. It's sort of 400 miles of farms, and it supplies more than 90% of farming sort of fruits and veg are grown and shipped for the US in this region. So we're replicating the same sort of thing here. We're trying to get the robots here pretty soon. In the next couple of months, everything goes well, we'll start the US sort of division. So yeah, that's pretty much happening quite fast paced, trying to get that moving as well. So building a business, absolutely right. There are different stages, different issues, different challenges, right? Startup have different challenges, and then scale up have different set of challenges. Like, how do we now scale up this business? How do we now get to a stage where we can hundreds and hundreds of robots? How can we make this offering a lot more, even more easier for the smaller players, right? We've got the big guys. And we don't want to forget about the mom and dad sort of shops, which are many. There are plenty in the UK and Europe, and double the size here in California. And we don't want to forget about them, because this is an affordable product for all of those guys. And we are not just only focused with the big multinational, billion dollar companies. We want to come after someone who's turning over, I don't know, £5 million a year or something. We want to help you guys as well. So we're trying to create offerings, different finance options, different ways to help them get robots in place, so that they don't end up paying any more than what they're paying right now for their human labor. So there's no other issues on cash flow. There's no other barriers on other financial aspects, right? Because many of the smaller customers can't get a bank loan as well, because the bottom line is so small that they can't go and get bank loan. They need our help. We have to be the one helping them. The industry has very low margins, 1-2%, which is crazy, right? And these guys are feeding the nation, feeding Britain or feeding any other nation, and they are pretty much squeezed out of every bit from retailers, squeezed out, and everyone else, the suppliers squeezed out. They're like squeezed in the middle, but they are feeding all of us, So something have to be done, and we are there trying to help increase those margins and stuff, which is all very good. When you look at not just the robotic side, but you look at the humanitarian side, and the fact that changing businesses, changing the lives of those individuals, and making sure the businesses are sustainable. That's a different feeling, which I don't think I can describe.
Yeah, love that. And I just think the whole thing is fascinating. I think the business is fascinating, and what you've done, like you say, 31 is unbelievable. Fair play to you. And I know I've only got you for 10 minutes, because you mentioned California. You've got a very busy day, and I'm sure I could do a part two to this at some point, because I just think there's so much to dig into. I'm going to ask you, so I don't forget, because I think it ties in quite nicely now to what you're saying, is from our last guest question. So my last guest was Nikki Gallagher, who's the head of human resources at Zentia, so they're a sealing manufacturer in Gateshead. But it links in quite nicely. So her question to you was, as a relatively new startup business, which has seen significant growth in a short space of time, how does the MD envisage continuing to engage their employees to ensure ongoing commitment, enthusiasm, building employee resilience, during extended period of change growth? I thought it was a great question and probably ties quite nicely to what you're saying there.
It is. No, absolutely. I think the issue with new people coming in and stuff. One thing I've realized and accepted is that not every person who's coming in will have the same enthusiasm as me, and also the people who've been there from a very long period, and that's a fact. If I'm expecting everyone to be the people who take ownership and do everything beyond what you ask them to do and have 100 different patents they apply for and all that sort of thing, uh, it's a wishful thinking. It's not going to happen, right? So we also need people who can actually do the job, right? Because eventually, you want people to do. You know what? This is what I'm going to do my job very well, but nothing more, and that's fine. That's okay with me. That's okay with everyone. We all have to accept that, right? But one thing which we do quite well in the company is we have a sense of ownership. So everyone who does the work, they have ownerships coming out because it's such an innovative world. People apply for patents. Almost every Wootzano employee or team member have they've invented something. They're the co-inventors for some element of the system. So they have patents under the name. And many of our engineers, they are they're quite young, right? This is their first or second job, or very early in their career, early stage of career. And personally, when you see them, they're growing massively because they got this buzz of energy around them, right? Which is getting everyone excited about what the future is holding. And it's the fact that they're the first ones doing this, and they're the first ones getting into where it is. Sometimes I had to even pause. I think before I came to California, I paused and told our guys, because sometimes you see the energy going down, and then it's not going down. It's not like, oh yeah, life is all okay. And I was like, hold on a second, guys, right? You realize what you've done, and I have to literally point out, because many times when you're working over and over again, you forget about the amazing thing you've done. No one else in the world have done this. And no, you guys have done something which no one else in the world have done. We've got massive multi-billion-dollar robotic companies as well who haven't done what you've done. We've got patents protecting it, worldwide coverage in the field of robotics, which no one else have gone into, right? And no one else has solved. So don't just underestimate what it is. And then suddenly the buzz comes up, and the right message back to me is really, really inspired us, really got us going again and stuff. So sometimes I think as a leader, you also have to reinstill that, because no matter how many years people are working, it will become a complacent. So, it's a normal day-to-day job. But actually, ours specifically, it's not a day-to-day job. It's not a 9 to 5 job. You come and do the same thing over and over again. It's something very different, and you're making a real difference to your own life and to the world of robotics as a whole. So yeah, there's a sense of ownership. You have to reinstill that part, but you also have to accept that some people, it's okay for them just not to be, I don't know, fully charged up. They're absolutely okay to do the job you're tasked to do, and I'm completely okay. I've realized that. I've come to conclusion that that's how it should be.
I resonate with that so much, and I completely agree as well. I think once you've got almost your core team, they're almost like the pillars. Yeah. I call mine the pillars. Yeah. And like you say, the rest is just building a house, and some will come, some will not work, some will. And I think you can every now and again you might add another pillar on, but not everyone needs to be there. So no, I love that, and it's a great answer. Do you ever, I imagine this has all happened so quickly for you. Do you ever reflect? I mean, what you said there to your team, I guess. Do you ever also reflect about what you've done? Are you at a stage now where you can sit back and be really proud of what you've done, or is it so all systems go all the time?
I mean, the thing is, I think, there's a thing which I think it was Jeff Bezos, he said that something called the day two effect, right? I mean, the issue is that on day one you're charged up, everything's great, you're the first ones, and no one else did this thing, right? You all go out and you're gonna conquer the world, and you have conquered the world. And then you come back the next day with all the excitement went away, like, oh, we signed an amazing contract. Come back next day, it's like, oh, day two, right? Okay, now gonna be complacent and relax, right? And that is one thing which will kill business. I mean, when you look at, let's say, Google, they became a bit too complacent in terms of what they could do with AI, conversational AI. I mean, they could have done amazingly well. I know the guys in the OpenAI quite well as well. I know what they've done, but it's that level of thing, right? If you become a bit complacent and you sort of say, what, we've captured the world. I mean, what else we have to worry about? There's nothing else. We can just sit back, relax, and keep reflecting on all the amazing work we did. Then that's a recipe for disaster. I mean, it doesn't mean I don't reflect. It doesn't mean you don't take rest. I absolutely do take rest. It's very important when you're running a business to take as much rest and breaks as you can. Spend time with family. I take small micro breaks, on holiday, go to different countries. It's important to have all of that, right? It's not if you power on, then you're gonna be completely what do you call it, worked up, and you're not gonna be innovative and charged up enough, right? You need to have breaks in your life, but at the same time, you can't be complacent. You have to be on guard. You have to be innovating. Our business is about innovation, because what we own as a company is, we don't have massive factories, lands we own, and all that sort of thing. That's not our asset. Our asset is our brain. Intellectual property, IP is a brain. And the way to continue creating asset for the business, continue creating value for the business, is that we continue innovating and continue being on the edge, bleeding edge. And I say bleeding edge because cutting edge, we're past cutting. It's already cut. It's very painful. It's bleeding now. So you have to be at the bleeding edge of technology, not cutting edge.
Love that. Look, I'll leave you there because I know how busy you are. I know you've got to go to the States. We must have a part 2 at some point, because I think there's so much more we can do. But this has been amazing. Your personality, your energy is infectious. I think that comes across. But I've learned so much today already about robotics and automation, and it's exciting. I'm sure anyone else listening to as well. Well, I mean, just for, if you don't mind, Wootzano, in terms of, so people listening can find a little bit more the sort of plans for the next 12 months. I imagine you've got loads. I mean, what's the big one for you? Is the big one cracking America? Is that the big goal now, is it?
Yes. Yeah. The US, and I mean, it's not just the US, but also for us in the UK, we are planning on seeding the market, with ideally hundreds of robots, but let's be real, but we want to get as many robots as we can. So we are going after smaller pack houses, medium pack houses, companies in the UK and Europe, so we can start offering these robots on leases, because previously it was ownership, and it's a monthly fee on top of it. But these ones on leases, so essentially it's no upfront cost. Get the robots in, and you pay as you would pay a worker, but lower, right? Lower cost than what a production line, human line would have costed you. So we're trying to get those sort of robots in place, and seeding the market as many as we can, helping the customers in the best way possible, and at the same time making sure that they save money and they are able to become sustainable. And then we obviously, and as a result of that, will become sustainable and become a good sort of growing business. So that's sort of the main plan. Yes, US is a huge component as well of that. Because the UK one, I've got my team sort of very much looking after it. I'm looking after the US right now, just to get that over the line and make sure we get a foot on the ground. So hopefully in the next sort of 4 months, if everything goes well, we'll have a commercial line here in the US as well.
Amazing. Well, look, thank you so much, Atif. It's been superb. Really appreciate it.